Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Noah Washington from Blurred Binder, and I'm sitting here with Mr. Demetrius Grosse, whose list of works have included critically acclaimed works such as Westworld, L.A. Noire, the most recent Lovecraft Country, and so much more. How you doing today, Mr. Grosse?
Abundantly blessed, doing very well. How are you? What's up, Noah?
Great, great. So let's start off with my first question. Are you a big sci-fi fan?
I would consider myself a little bit more of a sci-fi reader than a fan. I definitely read the short stories by Octavia Butler. One of my favorite books of all time was Ender's Game, um, Fahrenheit 451. So I'm more of a science fiction novella reader. I don't watch a lot of science fiction. I've been blessed to be able to be a part of a lot of science fiction, which has been really interesting. Because I didn't really grow up like hungry to watch science fiction.
Yeah.
I love relationship driven stories, um, stories that highlight our culture and and like historical narratives. But I've been able to be thus far able to be in very innovative and forward thinking sci-fi projects. So I've been getting more into the genre.
Wow, and we're going to cover all of that today. So I'm going to start off with a fun story. So my father and I, we played a lot of, video games together. We watched a lot of films growing up, and it was just by pure coincidence that we were playing L.A. Noire, right? And of course, you had a role in that. And so when you popped up, I was able to say, "Hey, that's Demetrius Grosse," was a really cool feeling, knowing that I was about to talk to you.
That's
Because this was
amazing.
fairly
You must have
recently.
got far in the game. You were good. Because I think I felt like my character might have been like buried in like the depths of the gameplay. I haven't got a chance to play the game yet. How is the gameplay?
Oh man, you should. Recently replayed it, and I remember playing as a kid, and I remember, during the Screen Guild Actors Awards, they highlighted it. It was a really cool thing to see that a video game had made it to that level. So my question for you is, what's it like shooting a video game versus traditional mediums such as film and television?
Well, if traditional film and television is being on a stage, then shooting motion capture projects is like Greek theater in terms of the layers of your performance that are able to be captured and translated into the final product. In motion capture and performance capture stuff, there's usually no less than 30 to 50 cameras on you. And then you have a whole element of facial recognition, and the software that they use for that is so evolved and highly sophisticated. And so your performances can be very, very small and minimalistic, but they can also, they have the technology to capture very big and broad moments that have more physicality. I find that to be the biggest difference. And I think
Wow.
the audiences for the video game world and the performance capture stuff, those demographics are a little wider. People who play video games are as young as 5 and to 55, whereas when you're making a television show or film, the demographics feel to be sometimes a little more narrow in terms of the project and the demographics that they hit.
Wow. So I really like the analogy that you use of the stage. You have a heavy theater background. Tell me what first got you interested in theater?
Just the ability to tell story, and in history, to learn narrative through performance, and through the visual mediums. The first play I ever saw was in South Carolina at it was at like a soldier's home or something, and it was about the Buffalo Soldiers, the heralded brigades of World War II, and it was like I saw history come alive a little bit. I'd heard about the Buffalo Soldiers. My grandfather was a Buffalo Soldier, but I, looking at those stories in textbooks kind of left it was a little flat. And then when I saw these brothers like portraying it, it really inspired me to want to go delve into more what it was to be a performer, and I also saw the impact that it could have. And you know, I was just a young kid going to my first play, and who knew that years later it would inspire me to pursue it as a profession and as a career.
So that's when you knew that you wanted to be an actor, when you saw those stories and the power.
Yes, I saw that it was a tool that you could use to um to highlight and to show our stories, you know, to highlight and show our stories. Like, reading something is one thing, but then seeing it visually with all of the other artistry that goes into that, you know, like the literary art is one part of it, the writer, but then, you know, the production design and the sound design and the performances, it was just exciting to me. Like, I thought it was fascinating.
Wow.
I'm still fascinated by it. And it's almost like a Rubik's Cube, right? Like you never really quite have it figured out. You know, you're always, it's a craft and a profession that you're always learning, and you're, you know, there's always a new challenge. You know, the moment that you think you got it, somebody says, hey, can you play this character, or can you delve into this world? Can you make this real? And so you get back into your toolbox, you know, you consult your muse and you go into it. And that is always brand new. And that's really the exciting part, that it's always fresh. It's like, you know, your toolkit, but then you're always finding new ways, innovative ways to use those tools to tell a story and to create an environment that's worthwhile. Thank you. Not an environment, but an experience that's worthwhile.
So one of your most recent works includes what is described as the acting Olympics, Westworld. And you play a character, the deputy, who, spoil alert for people out there, who meets his maker a few times within the series. Is there what is it like to be in that zone, you know, and that creative zone where I got to convincingly die?
Yeah, well, he's the character I play. Deputy Foss is a cyborg. He's a robot, and more so than the character and him dying, that experience is one that I treasure. You know, I got a chance to work with Jeffrey Wright and have conversations with Tandy Newton and just Evan Rachel Wood, just amazing actors on that show. Anthony Hopkins, I got a chance to speak with him. These are people that are like, they're titans in the world of cinema and television. And so, you know, to get a chance to work with them and observe their processes, my God, it was profound. I think the robot guy, Deputy Foss, and him dying, I don't think he has the emotional instrument, that character that you're talking about. I don't think his emotional instrument allows him to, you know, shed a tear because he gets because he sees his demise at the end of that loop. So for those who are not familiar with the show, people go to this place called Westworld, which is a theme park that is manned by robots, and they get to fulfill fantasies. And my character, Deputy Foss, is one of the those androids, and he is a sheriff. And so that's it. That's all I'll share, Noah, in terms of that, because you've seen it, but maybe not everybody else has seen it. I think you're frozen. It's all good. So yeah, and it looks like I'm gonna carry the next couple of minutes of this because Noah, your phone is frozen, or your camera is frozen. But just I guess a little bit more about it. It was based off of a show, a film that came out starring Yul Brynner. I think that was in the 70s. The original Westworld came out.
It was in the 80s.
80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's a huge show. Like, I mean, it's one of the biggest things I've ever been a part of. Like it's imaginative and it's full of intricacies in the plot. The plot line is crazy. Like if you're into it, if you're into that kind of stuff, you're in for a ride.
Well, and my correction earlier, it was indeed the early 70s, so my fault. While we're on the subject of HBO shows, recently you have made your debut on Lovecraft Country. Can we expect to see your character again? And please give a brief description of your character.
My character is Marvin Baptiste, who is Letty Baptiste and Ruby Baptiste's brother. And Marvin is he's actually a journalist in this era. That's how we established the character, and so he has his hands on a lot of the public records. And in the particular scene in the first episode of season 1 that we meet Marvin, he has garnered a bunch of research to help Atticus, who's Jonathan Major's character, and Courtney Vance, the uncle, and Letty, to help them to find their way to Devon County, where they are in hopes to find Atticus's father. Will we see him moving forward? Maybe. As they say in show business, he ain't dead. So the character is not dead. So we'll see if he comes back. I think the writers are going to basket weave everything together and try to bring things full circle before the end of season 1, and we'll see about season 2.
Understood. So speaking of the future, I see here that you're about to be on Fear the Walking Dead. What can you tell us? Any secrets you can divulge?
I can say that this is unlike a character I've ever played before. This character is a loner and he's in a world that I've never played in before. I've never been in any kind of zombie genre, production. So it was really fascinating to be able to delve in that world and have fun in it. Like I wasn't scared. I honestly, like, before I shot that, I was watching a bunch of zombie movies and films so I could get used to the idea of seeing all the gore and the prosthetics and the makeup and all that stuff, and so it wouldn't throw me when I was performing. So by the time I got there, I felt pretty prepared. It's a character that has notes of like No Country for Old Men. If you've ever seen that movie, that was a big, energetically, that was definitely something I channeled. I can't really talk too much about it because I don't want to spoil it. People are hitting me. A lot of people ask me, like, what's going to happen in season 6? Because the people who are fans, those of us who are fans of Fear the Walking Dead, they're hardcore fans. Like, they're vigilant about the show. So I almost don't want to share too much more than is already out there, like, in terms of what to expect. It's going to be great, though. I've seen little small clips of it, and even I'm excited. I haven't seen all of it yet, so I'll be tuning in with everyone else to learn more about where it goes and how it kicks off the 6th season. And it airs, I think, in October. So we got a couple months before it shows.
So can you tell me who was your favorite actor to play with, or share a scene with?
My favorite actor to play with and share a scene with. Man, I'd have to really think about that. That's a stumper, man. You had that question loaded up and you didn't tell me. That's a good one.
That's what we do here.
I don't know who my favorite actor is to share a scene with. I recently did a scene with Elise Neal, funny enough, in this movie called Survival that's about to come out. It's produced by Henry and Leah Daniels Butler. but see, that was just maybe it was because it was recent. She's an amazing actor, Elise Neal. And I had a lot of fun playing with her with that. But God, no, I don't know who's my favorite. You know, I could say this. My favorite actor is to play with is one who is willing to play, you know.
Okay, an all-encompassing answer. Okay.
Yeah, seriously. If somebody comes, because everybody's gonna bring their flavor, everybody's gonna bring their sauce. And so it would be posthumous for me to say one person is my favorite, you know. And I mentioned at least because it was recent and she's a phenomenal actor. But gosh, I've been really blessed to work with so many phenomenal people that I find that when someone comes to work and they can play, they are the most fascinating and fun to work with. And that could be anybody on any given Sunday, you know.
So what is a role that you auditioned for that you didn't get but really wanted to play?
I wanted to play. I don't know. I don't think about those as much. I really don't think about like once if it doesn't happen for me, I just get into and I like say I like a script and it doesn't go my way. I'll really like let that monkey off my back, so to speak, and get into the show itself and enjoy the performances. You know, I don't have a ton of those that I got sort of look back and wish, oh man, I wish I had done that. And I always had a philosophy that the best is yet to come. You know, that the things that are meant for you will find you, no matter what. I'm a big believer in divine order and even destiny.
Mm-hmm.
That might not have been the answer that you were looking for, but I don't. I really don't. I don't have it ostensibly on the top of my head. You know, like I don't have that answer in terms of like what is that role that I wish I had got to play. There are roles that I hope I get to play, projects that I want to be a part of, and so I just hold fast to that.
Okay, so recently I've learned that HBO likes to cast a lot of the same actors, and they are making a Green Lantern TV series. And you know, there's a little role out there. Some people might have heard about him, the Green Lantern. You know, Jon Stewart. Is there any auditions or maybe talks?
Yeah, there's been talks. There's some talks online right now. I've looked at some of the blog sites and I've been nominated for it to be considered.
All right, well, we're putting it out there. Would you even want to do it? Would you want to do Green Lantern?
I want to do anything that stretches me, man. You know, I haven't done anything in the comic verse, you know, universe yet. I'm curious as to what kind of journey that would be. So yes.
Well, I have to disagree to an extent on comic universes. You were a part of Heroes, which was anybody out there who's listening, which was like the precursor for really superhero television. You know, I put, when people say what made superhero television popular, I often point to Heroes, which kind of, you know, reinvented and redefined the genre. What was that like?
That was me fresh out of the gate of school, like just literally coming to LA. This was like 05. Heroes was the biggest show, I think, on television at the time. And I got a chance to play a Haitian revolutionary. And I just read the research for that was bananas, like just learning the patois and the Creole and getting an opportunity to on French and actually put that up on the screen was profound. And man, I remember going into that audition and wearing an eye patch. So and it was funny because the director of that show was like, "Yeah, we saw you coming with the eye patch. We thought this guy's crazy. He's not. This is not cool." But then somehow I got the role. So from that, I learned, and this is what I pass on to actors, is like, in your process, make bold choices. Like, in any profession, make bold choices. There's always going to be criticism and critiques, but when you make a choice that really resonates with you and it's something that you really believe in and you feel, especially if it's coming from the right space of wanting to add and serve the story, you'll be surprised at how it comes back around, even if it's not what somebody initially thought as the way that they were going. So yeah, that's
Wow.
what that was like. Heroes was a lot of fun, and it still comes up. Over a decade later, it comes up.
Right, just now, you're right. So you brought up auditioning. What is the most ridiculous audition, or the most ridiculous thing you've done during an audition?
You said the most ridiculous audition or thing that happened?
Both. Let's do both.
I think the most ridiculous audition, man. I mean, honestly, bro, like no audition is really ridiculous. You can learn something from everything.
Mm-hmm.
You really can. Sometimes commercial, I still audition on commercial. Sometimes they can feel pedantic a little bit. Um, because there's one school of thought that says, okay, if you can act, you can act. You know what I look like. You know what I look like. You know, what you're getting. Why are we doing these exercises to capture something? But you never know. You try to, the directors in commercials are looking for very specific things and trying to capture things in 30 seconds. So what I find is even in commercial acting is cool because you're communicating a lot of information in a short period of time. So I found value in that. Um, the most ridiculous thing that's ever happened in an audition. I tell you what, one time I had my baby daughter, and I was going to audition, and my wife wasn't around, so I had to take the baby to the audition, and the baby was sleeping. So I had to have the baby in the waiting room, and I had to yell during the scene at a point in the scene, and I remember not wanting to wake up the baby, and so I remember like doing this growl yell because I didn't want to increase the decibel.
Uh-huh.
That was a couple of years ago. But yeah, man, like I said, no, like you take something from everything. I don't really
Mm-hmm.
look at any of them as ridiculous per se.
Mm-hmm.
I try to find the you know what's the silver lining, and then what can be extrapolated from the situation, what I can grow with.
Hmm. Wow. So you are also a producer, and you mentioned earlier about wanting to bring more intimate relational stories to life. Is there any particular story you want to cover or want to see brought to life?
I'm still very interested in seeing Marvin Gaye's life brought to life. It's the project and the property has gone through a lot of different incarnations. I think currently Dr. Dre has the rights to the story. I think at one point Jesse Williams was going to play it. Yeah, that story is near and dear. I also would really love to see Benjamin Banneker's story, um, who was the architect who designed Washington D.C., 33 degree Mason. Uh, he created the very first almanac. Um, yeah, I like biopics, history stories, history narratives. I like westerns, uh, and I like stories that evolve our concept of who we are and who we've been. Um, and what we're capable of, you know. And that's why I'm really happy to be a part of something like Lovecraft. It really embosses, you know, the idea of blacks in science fiction and in mysticism and magic and all of those.
Okay, Demetrius, we still having a little bit of technical issues, so I'm just going to step in here and ask a couple of questions while
Okay.
Noah's logging back in. What I want to understand, or what I think some of the viewers might want to understand, is just the process that goes through. You know, you're a young kid, you got the world open to you. You know, you can take advantage of any other thing, and something leads you to pursue a career in the arts, right? How does that happen? I mean, were you inspired by family? And I understand what you said earlier about watching some other performances and some of that inspired you, right? But, you know, it's not the traditional thing, especially that young black men choose to do, right? So what was it that really got you engaged in being able to pursue that as a career?
I think what got me engaged to pursue acting was first of all, it was very second nature to me, you know, and more than that, it really, you have an opportunity to speak to people without being heavy-handed. Like it's almost like within a character, within wardrobe, within a story, you have the opportunity to express something about humanity. And that was very attractive to me. Oba Babatunde told me one time that if you are able to really delve into your characters and into these stories and uh, develop a process that allows your ego to drop out of the artistic process, you can be a kind of revolutionary. And that was profound to me early on in my career to think about the messages that I've been taught and how what I want to pass on, what I want to give, what I want to represent to people, and how I can do that through my work and without, you know, being on a soapbox or, you know, being on a steeple, like, you know, declaring it outright. I had an opportunity to channel my message and not my message, but good messages through these lenses of these characters and through these stories. It felt it still feels uh, stealth is the word that I think of. Um, feels like a stealth way to get good messages to those who can glean them in being an actor. And then, of course, it's fun, man. Like I actually really enjoy what I do. It's also it's a platform that connects people. When I grew up, everybody didn't have cell phones, so there was still very much that fireside chat effect to watching programs where people would get together and like, you know, your family get together and watch stuff, and that's very valuable to me, and I think it's valuable to our community to have things that, you know, just that are part of culture and that make um, that make people get together and enjoy something. Oh, did you see Creed 2? Oh, did you see Black Panther? Did you see, you know, these and then people can kind of have a place of communion that's, you know, sometimes lighthearted and sometimes very deep, and speaks to the world that we're in, you know, like the Last Black Man in San Francisco, movies like that, or movies like The Hate U Give, you know, um, that that speak to larger issues of Fruitvale Station, you know, like, so it's a gift. It's a gift to do what I do. I take it very seriously, and I have a lot of reverence for others who also who do it well and do it consistently. It's not an easy game to stay in.
Wow. I'm glad you brought up a lot of, you were speaking of revolutionaries and filmmaking all together as a medium for families to come together. This past weekend, unfortunately, we lost a real champion in Chadwick Boseman. What might his work or himself as a person have given to you as an actor, as a performer, and entertainer, an all-around human?
Oh my gosh, Chad gave. I can just speak for myself. Chad gave me an understanding of the mantle that one carries when they are in that space, specifically the space of being our hero. Like, you know, the brother was T'Challa. He will always be T'Challa. He's, uh, you know, and he played iconic characters. That's one thing. Like, you know, Jackie Robinson, Thurgood Marshall, blah, blah. You know, those were iconic characters. But his character as a person um, was so um, he was just a good guy. You know, he's a really good guy. For some people to have that level of fame and success, it corrupts some people. And Chad was always the same. You know what I mean? And I think he leaves with us a spirit of resilience, right? Where he was battling those things, his health. He was battling those struggles with his health, and he never said like pity me or cry for me. He kind of just kept to his mission and his purpose, and and he was just one of those guys that is always he was the same since day one, since I've known him. You know, mind you, I didn't know Chad while I was at Howard. We missed each other by a few years, but when I got out to LA, we had a lot of mutual friends, and so we got to know each other out there and beyond. But you know, he was always the same guy. So to me, I smile when I think of his legacy. I think of like infinite possibilities um, because of the different spaces that he occupied. So like really, Chad would consider himself a writer and a director, honestly, right? But we know him as these iconic characters on screen, and that to me is delightfully um, dichotomic. You know, like it's interesting. Like I don't know. There's a lot of messages, Noah, that you know we all have been. Those of us who knew him, those of us who knew him way closer than I did, and those who didn't know him at all, we're all considering what his legacy means, um, and my thoughts on that are definitely still burgeoning. You know, I'm still digesting and downloading what he left with me, but definitely, you know, at the top of that list um, is the adage that says that you really can be all you can be. Like don't put limits on yourself because you know there are the only limits that we have are the ones that we place on ourselves, and that's what I get from Chad, and I get um, to just remain humble and understand the um, the responsibility that comes with that influence and that mantle.
Wow. You mentioned in your statement iconic characters that Chad has played. And earlier you mentioned maybe wanting to put Marvin Gaye's story out there. Is that, in what capacity would you want to do that? And would you want to play Marvin Gaye? Would you want to produce it, direct it, write it?
I would want to play Marvin Gaye. I do want to play Marvin Gaye. I believe I will play Marvin Gaye. I don't know. At the end of the day, though, what's most important to me is the story. And I don't know that I would direct it. I think I would want if that when that story is produced, I would want it to be directed by somebody who is as pure of a director as I am as pure of an actor. While I do direct and I am writing and producing, I consider myself, in essence, an actor, an actor's actor. So, like, I would want a director that, that's their game, but then truthfully and honestly, the capacity to which I'm a part of it, it doesn't, that's not primordial. I feel like I have information and I have a spirit and a connection that will allow me to really add value to the telling of that story, regardless of what is the actual place, that I end up falling. I try not to attach my mind to matter and how things will play out that I can't control. So only time will tell how and when that story gets produced and in what realm I may or may not be involved. If that answers your question.
It does. So still going off of it, who's your dream director for a movie like that?
Oh man. My dream director. It's gonna sound like a shameless plug, but the guy who I grew up watching and to this day, like, I defend to the hilt is Spike Lee. Like, I'm still a Spike fan. Like, and I've yet to have worked with Spike yet. And it is so funny because so many of my contemporaries have worked with him, and I'm always like, I think I just wrote him a letter recently, so we'll see. But he's one of those guys. I like the Hughes brothers a lot. Definitely. I want to work with Alfonso Corazon.
Ooh.
How do you pronounce his name? The guy who did Gravity.
I think you got it, Alfonso Corazon.
Corazon, yeah. I've seen some of his stuff and I really like it. And I like working with guys, men and women who come from music videos too. Because they're just so imaginative. Like the way they set up shots and the way they tell story is different and is innovative. I like those, I like Director X. Like, he just did Superfly, right? And he came largely from the music video space. Like, his movies are crazy. Or like, you think of a movie like Belly with Hype Williams, or Benny Boone, who did Idlewild, right? But Benny came from music videos, so my list is vast. But the kinds of directors I want to work with and who those directors are, it's a long list. I've actually written it down, so I don't even want to start saying it because I'm gonna definitely leave out some people. So I threw out a couple names, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah.
Wow, I'm glad you brought out music because that leads into the next thing, Straight Outta Compton. Tell me about that. And
Straight Outta Compton was a phenomenal experience. I got a chance to meet F. Gary at an event years prior to the film, and kind of tried to stay in touch. It's kind of hard to stay in touch with somebody as busy and as big of a deal as F. Gary is. I mean, he's kind of been on a short list of very powerful and busy directors in Hollywood. But somehow we kept a little bit of a dialogue, and then I went down to the open call. Like it was down in Watts. They had an open call at a rec center, and I got a chance to read for one of the characters and in the band, but I didn't look like anybody in the band in the actual group. And so I kind of wrapped it up. I chalked it up and was like, I'm not gonna be a part of this. I don't look like Suge Knight, you know what I'm saying? And I don't look like Dre. I don't look like Easy. So I was like, and I kind of look a little bit like Ren, but I'm not really a Ren, right? So I was like, okay, oh well. And then like literally the day before I got called to set, he called me up out the blue and was like, I got a role for you. You know,
the day before shooting was. You said the day before. Were you working?
The day before we played, the day before we shot, I got a call from F. Gary, and the brother was like, "Yo, I don't know if you can pull this off. I know you went to school and you theatrically trained and you got all this classical training, but I'm about to bring you over here to do this hood scene real quick, and I need you to bring that realness and that truth to it." He's like, I don't know, can you handle it? I said, man, I'm from D.C. I said, let's go. So it was like that, and it was great. And he gave us a chance to eat, as he calls it, which is like, you know, when we start improvising and then we figure out what the scene is off of the page and then lock it in so everybody's on the same page, and then we film that. And Universal loved what we put together, and they moved that scene up to open the movie before the opening credits. And before it was just kind of buried in the script as almost like a flashback to what Eric Wright's life was like before that, before he became, the CEO of Ruthless Records. But they wanted the flashback to come at the top of the movie because of the work that all the actors did to make that scene so authentic and visceral.
Wow. I'm sorry to to the watchers. I should have put spoiler warning before this videos because we're letting it all out on all your work. So my next question is, COVID-19 is ravaging through the country. How has that, of course, it's affected life in film and television. So what's it like being an actor living through this?
It's an interesting question you ask. How has COVID-19 affected life as an actor? I'll tell you what, for sure, it gets you more into a space of creating your own. And also, for me personally, it's allowed me to get to the core and essence of who I am, and all that I am, and all that my family means, all that my children mean, and just really what's valuable. What they say is like, if you can't lie in life and be the truth on the stage. So it's really allowed me to really get to some core values of really what I believe in, what I stand for, what's important to me, what's to be prioritized. I get a lot of time now to homeschool with my wife and kids, and write and read and develop new ideas. I've been doing a lot of voiceover stuff, so that's been interesting, getting into my voice more, because now things are not as much visual as sometimes they are audio. So been developing music and writing music and recording music, and working on, I did a character on Call of Duty recently for video games, so we're still doing more video games. So it's just evolution. It's just evolution.
Wow, that is amazing. Tell me more about your voice acting work. What is we can't see you, right? So I know you have to personify, or have the ability to personify, different characters just off of your voice. How do you approach that?
So when I was a kid, actually that's a lie. It wasn't just when I was a kid. Actually, even recently, like up until like a couple years ago, my mother has she has a kind of a corporate job. So I would call up to her office and ask for her, but I would call up as like a Russian man, or as a South African, or I'd call up as all these different personas, these characters, and I'd sort of see how long I could get through in a conversation with her before she would know that it was her son. And I think I mentioned that because I think that's still sort of part of my process. It's like if I can fool myself or somebody close to me in terms of what I'm able to do with my voice, then I know I'm at least headed in the right direction of actually being in the pocket with a character when it comes to vocal choices. It all comes from a sense of play.
Okay, we've lost him.
You freezing?
He's going through some more, but let me just pursue that a little bit more, because there's a lot being done now with animation, right? Aside from the video game area of animation, right? Have you been approached to maybe do some voiceover work for animation?
Absolutely. We just we have a show coming out soon called Califia in the Timeless Centuries. That's an animated series. You can Google that, and you can search it on YouTube. We have the first 3 episodes of Califia and the Timeless Centuries out. It's directed by Rahman Dunbar, executive produced and written by Keith Underwood, starring myself, and that's a beautiful project. The artwork on that is great. We do voices for that. Yeah, I mean that's the only animated project that I know that's current, that's happening right now. That's recent. I will say that I'm in the mix for a couple of very well-known animated franchises right now.
Okay. All right. That's
so hopefully you'll hear about those coming up.
Okay. We shall see, huh? We shall see.
So I'm having a hard time hearing you guys a little bit. I'm trying to amp up my volume here.
Okay. Let's see. Bring it back up.
There we go.
So
there you go. No.
You were
Can
talking.
You hear me okay?
I can hear you great.
All right, good.
You were talking about animated roles, a couple of notable animated roles just now. Any you could particularly call out by name?
That I did an animated role. I did a role on a Lego cartoon. I don't know the name of that character. It's almost like a trivia. Let's see. I don't know, man. Throw me a rope. I don't know. What do you think? What are you looking? Do you know any animated characters? My animation mostly is in video games. Actually, it's in motion capture.
Okay.
On the cartoons, yeah. I'm interested in it. Like I said, it's definitely ramped up since the whole COVID-19 thing. Voiceover is taking off, and it's very, very busy.
Well, okay. Okay. I'm looking forward to all these. Is there any literature you go to for reference to your characters? What is your character study like?
My character study literature. I like The Empty Space by Peter Brook. I like Truth by Suzanne Batson. I like this great book called No Acting, Please. I don't know who the writer of that is. And then more than that, man, really, I hear myself saying this and it sounds kind of pious, but really like the Bible. Like honestly, like the Bible is a phenomenal book, whether you're religious or not, whether you have a relationship with Jesus Christ or not. Like it's a phenomenal book, even philosophically and energetically, if not in terms of a person's creed. There's a lot of books. I don't know. I can't give you all those. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have any off the top of my head that more than those three right there. And I wasn't even expecting to mention those. That's funny.
Okay. So we're approaching the end here. So right now we are going through a radical change in our country right now, where Black voices and people of color voices and other marginalized groups are really getting listened to. Is there any message or thought that you have on this?
That we are that
Just going into it, so such as we've had Jacob.
We've lost him on the stream, Noah. So we just lost Demetrius. I think let's go ahead and wrap up, and we'll probably ask Demetrius to come back to do a follow up with us. Oh, here he is.
Okay. Can you ask that question one more time?
Yes. So right now we're going through a change in our country where marginalized groups and people of color are finally getting listened to. What is the message or thoughts you have pertaining to this?
It's time. My mentor told me, there's a revolution going on right now, and if you're not aware of it, then you're slipping. Like, there is more representation and more opportunities. We're creating more opportunities for each other. And I think we're also finding that there are many Blacks and people of color in power positions and positions to evoke and cultivate change. So we're not always asking someone else to do something for us. We can incorporate and galvanize us doing for us, and self-sufficiency in a sense. That's exciting. I think that's primordially important for us to find those avenues to enterprise with each other, like you're doing right now. And I think there's more infrastructure for that now than before, and there's also more of a sensitivity to the importance of it. I think we have to be vigilant about being unified. I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. So I think it's important for us to be vigilant about being unified and seeking to incorporate with each other. That's, in a nutshell, that's the biggest thing that I can offer in terms of, what the times are. It's funny because at one point, the Black Lives Matter movement was all over the news, and then there was a second rollout of the whole COVID thing, and then it wasn't in the news as much, and then there were several more murders of unarmed brothers and sisters, and then and we can't allow the whether or not we're getting media coverage to be a predicate upon how conscious we are of the state that we're in.
Wow. Thank you so much, Mr. Grosse, and thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Is there any thing before we log off that you want to speak about, or any shout outs to give?
Shout outs? Wow. I don't really do that anymore. I mean, because you always leave them out. I just say, man, God bless everybody who definitely got a chance to check out this live stream. Thank you. And may you all be safe, be well, and be vigilant. And I'll see you out there. One love.
Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Grosse.
Thank you, Noah. Have a good one.
And thank you all